Okay, now we are live now with this meeting of the Governance Committee, and apologies to anybody who's been watching on YouTube and waiting, but we are now live. First item on the agenda is apologies for absence. We have no recorded apologies, all the members are present. The second item on the agenda is election of chairman of the committee for the current civic year. So members, may I have nominations? Councillor Cordwell.
I should like to nominate Councillor Wilson, please.
Is there a seconder, please? Councillor Ashra. Thank you. Are there any further nominations? Councillor Grensell.
Councillor Peter Hogarth.
Is there a seconder for that, please? Councillor Alsop. Okay, since there are two nominations, I'm just going to take a straightforward vote. So I'll ask for all of those in favour for Councillor Wilson, please, by show of hands. That's 4. And all of those in favour of Councillor Hogarth, please. And that's 5. So Councillor Hogarth is elected chairman of the committee. Over to you, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed. We have the appointment of a vice chairman, please, to the committee. And I would propose, Councillor Grensell can propose these.
I propose Councillor Stuart Davis.
I'll second. Are there any other nominations? Therefore, Councillor Stuart Davis is duly elected as the Vice Chairman of the Governance Committee. I'd also like to welcome, because we've got quite a new team of members on the Governance Committee. We have 2 on the Green side. I think it's Green. No, you're a Liberal Democrat. Sorry. Yes, my apologies. Well, you know, I'm known to make a few put my foot in it, but at least it's an enjoyable committee. So we've got 2 new members on the opposition side, and we have 1, 2, 3 new members on the Conservative side. So it'll be a learning per evening tonight, but welcome, and I hope you enjoy your time on the Governance Committee. We are a very friendly committee, aren't we, Councillor Caldwell?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Right, my screen's now gone off here, so where has it gone? Oh dear. And we've now got declarations of interest. You've got a declaration, Councillor McCarthy?
Just to say in that item number 7, I'm one of the proposers of one of the people listed there.
I understand that is acceptable.
Thank you.
Thank you. And are there any other declarations of interest? Councillor Davis, would you like to do the same, just to make everything smooth? You're representing Councillor Kate Wild, or recommending Councillor Kate Wild. That's fine. Thank you very much. We now move along to the minutes, which are on page 5 and 6, and they went to council some weeks ago and were approved. So unless there's any other comment with regard to them, can we accept those as a true record? Fine. Thank you very much indeed. Right, we come to the main item tonight. We're normally not that short of it with regards to meetings, but it is a very important appointment of honorary alderman. And I have to say that I am a great supporter, because I moved this some 8 or 9, 10 years ago, and it was opposed, and eventually I managed to get it through. And I think it is right to honour people who have whatever political persuasion, that they've served the community over many years of service to the residents of Solihull. And I think that that's a nice little honour to have, and to be invited occasionally to any major function that the council may have, such as Remembrance Sunday, for instance, or the annual service, and that type of thing. And it's just nice to see old faces again. So anyway, I hope we can get along with this one quite smoothly. And we have, I think Jane Gain will probably introduce this from her home with regard to the this item. So Jane.
Good evening, everybody. The item before you requires full council approval. We've received.
Jane, can you hold a moment, please? We can't hear you. So we've got the technical advisor here at the moment on her knees trying to, that's better. You can hear me now, I can hear myself. Right, Jane, would you like to try?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. You've got an item before you tonight that will require full council approval once you've made your decision. We've received a number of nominations for honorary alderman. Former councillors Flo Nash, councillors Glenys Slater, Ted Richards and Kate Wild. Their nomination forms are attached to the report, along with an explanation and a statement as to why they should be honoured. The criteria for appointing honorary alderman is also attached, and I would ask members to look at that criteria against each nomination that's been put forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Members, you are aware and read this report. Now, there is a slight problem, possibly, but not necessarily, because we had a rule of 15 years actual service, probably being mayor, chairman of a committee, leader of the authority. So, and of course, in the past, we have, shall we said, refused recommendations for someone who had done, say, 10 years, because although they'd been mayor, they hadn't done the 15. This is a decision that we'll have to make this evening. And as I've just said earlier on in that introduction, I'm very supportive of this particular process, but there are rules and regulations, so we'll see what happens. I'll open it to discussion. I think that's most important. So if your mics are working on your side and not on our side, our speakers will come up to the desk here. So anyone want to address the meeting? Right, Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. Yes, I think all of these appointments are very notable, and I'd be very supportive of all of them. I'd just like to speak on the 15-year rule, if I may. I do understand that there is a 15-year rule, but I would like to ask that it be waived for the two appointments who don't meet the 15-year rule tonight. Because both of those appointments have served as mayor, which is a huge time commitment, as I'm sure anyone who's served here as mayor knows very well. It is a huge time commitment, but it's such you give yourself to the borough and your whole life, and it's your whole family experiences that as well. On Glenys Slater particularly, I'd just like to say, Glenys, my story meeting Glenys found me working in the community, and she has been such an inspiration to me, not just in her political career, but as a person as well. She's been an incredible person, and I've seen her lift up so many residents, not just in Elmdon, but across the whole borough. She's inspired so many people. And I think you can list the titles: mayor, deputy mayor, group leader that she's had in her 9 years on the planning committee, which is a huge commitment in itself. But I don't think that really sums up just the commitment and what Glenys has given to the community and to this borough, because she has been an incredible inspiration. And so I've mentioned in the nomination form, you may have seen there that there was one particular resident. Glenys found out that they were homeless, and whilst they were waiting for emergency accommodation to make sure that they had somewhere, Glenys put them up herself in her own home. And that just speaks volumes about Glenys. I think it really, really does. So I hope you will approve her nomination tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your excellent report and speech on that particular lady. Anyone else like to make any comments, please, at this time? Councillor Grinsell.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I remember the case of former councillor and former mayor Gary Allport, who had not fulfilled the criteria in terms of time. So what I did, based on the persons that have been nominated for this honour, and it is an honour, I looked at their attendance records. The attendance records of all 4 candidates are absolutely exemplary. Not quite 100%, but not far short of 100% on all the scrutiny boards, the outside bodies. They've been there come hell or high water. So personally, I think we do have discretionary powers on this committee, and therefore I would be supportive of all 4, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Councillor Caldwell.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, you can. Fine. So, of the 4 that are recommended to go forward to full council, the only one I have any real experience of is Councillor Richards, who I found to be an excellent ward councillor in the time that I worked with him. I think that if this is to have meaning, and if it is to be the honour that we want it to be, then I think we do need to be clear about what the qualifications are for you to achieve that honour. And I acknowledge that we have discretionary power, but if we use it all the time, it devalues the point, I think, of having qualification criteria in the first place. Now, for these 4 nominees, I think we should go ahead with all 4 of them. But I do, at the same time, think that if we have got a problem with the 15-year rule, and if we want to consider alternate qualifications, such as length of, such as attendance records, such as what other things they've served on, we might want to think about how we measure the qualification to become an alderman in the future, and maybe get rid of the 15-year rule or look at replacing it with something else. So that's the only thing I would say, but I'd be happy to support all 4 who are put up this evening.
Thank you. Any other speakers, please? Very quiet on the left of me. Personally, I agree with everything that's been said. Rules is rules, though, aren't they? I'm just wondering how, as my colleague Councillor Grinstall's mentioned, is Gary Allport. I know he was very, very disappointed when he missed out by, I think, 2 years. Pardon?
Chairman, if I could
not-
just come in on that
Yeah.
point. I don't believe Councillor Allport, former Councillor Allport, was ever actually nominated. I don't think there was a nomination that was declined. I think there wasn't a nomination because the criteria were known and no nomination was put forward. That's my understanding.
Yeah, I think actually you're right, Deborah, but Councillor Grinstall's got his hand up and interrupting me, so carry on, Councillor Grinstall. We know what you look like, so you can take your mask off.
I have got my mask off. I do remember it, and in actual fact, it was a group decision, a Conservative group decision, not to put former Councillor Allport forward purely on the criteria of the term of tenure, which is a shame. And perhaps, and I note the rules that someone who's been 10 years, this could potentially be reviewed. Maybe that's something that we ask of our Conservative group at our next meeting. I'll certainly raise it at that point in time because former Councillor Allport could potentially be put forward under the criteria that's set out in front of us. The and I take on board what Councillor Caldwell said about we need to review the criteria for this. And what I always find strange is that, of course, it doesn't work with the normal election process of every 4 years. So maybe in the future, should this come up, I'd possibly consider 12 years, which would be, would tie in with the election process rather than this odd 15 years, but that's probably historical rather than where we are today. And I agree, the criteria does need to be reviewed at some point in the not too distant future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I mean, the suggestion then of 12 years, you've got Councillor Nash, who is 9 years on the list, but she has covered being mayor twice. I think it was twice, wasn't it? Yes, twice. She's been on the parish council. I know that's slightly different, but that's serving the community of the borough. 25 years as a councillor for Fordbridge Town Council. I don't see how, in all honesty, one could really turn around and say no, that this lady should not be included, irrespective of the 15-year rule. And I would be happy to support all four. Whether Deborah has got any comments that she could advise with this at all?
Yes, Chairman, the criteria are quite clearly set out in the scheme, but as the Governance Committee, you're going to be making a recommendation to the Council. If your recommendation is that, having regard to all the various different elements of service that the former councillors have put in over the years, you feel there are grounds for making an exception to that policy, then that's the recommendation you may put forward. It will be up to council to decide whether to accept your recommendations, of course. But I think the other part of this evening's decision that you could take forward is to say that you would like a review of the scheme and you would like it brought back to a future meeting of the Governance Committee so that you can have another look at those criteria.
I think that solves our problem this evening. I would recommend, and I'm sure everyone here will agree, that all the four names in front of us should be acceptable for the honorary alderman membership. This would go to full council in July, and then the celebration as such will be in October council meeting, when the four recipients would be attending and receiving their honorary alderman badge. I also feel that we should support the recommendation or suggestion put forward by Deborah, that we have a review of this particular situation. And I think on this occasion, all four deserve to be considered and given this opportunity, because not only the time that they have served, less than 15 years in two cases, that they have been very loyal supporters of this borough and given a lot of time, as Laura McCarthy has said, family time out with regard to supporting the authority. So can I have a recommendation, please, from Councillor Grinsell? And a review? Thank you. Councillor Stewart Davis, thank you. And Councillor Caldwell. And I would like to think that at full council that we've got different parties here, all three parties. We haven't got the Labour Party, but there's three parties. And I hope that there won't be any sort of anti-burst with regard to this particular recommendation. We're all in agreement. And it's been a very short meeting, lengthened slightly because of the problems of sound, but we have got there, and I think we've made the correct decision. And thank you very much for your attendance this evening. And as again, welcome to the two members there and 3 new members there. It's only Councillor Alsop and myself and Councillor Caldwell and Councillor Wilson are the originals. So there we are. Anyway, thank you very much and good night.